Good evening, everybody. This is Jackie, your host for today's episode. We've got Lawrence McGaffey and we have Roger today. Today, we're going to be talking about ethical challenges and legal responsibilities in our own disciplines, in our own career field. I'm going to start this off by talking about a child advocacy center. I work at a children's advocacy center. Are any of you familiar with what an advocacy center does? Lawrence, Roger?
No, and I think you would look out for children, look out for themselves. I guess they'll provide resources.
Yeah, it's essentially an agency that brings together lots of different professions. You've got law enforcement, prosecutors, medical therapists, and investigators. They come together when a child makes an outcry of physical abuse, sexual abuse, neglect, anything like that. When somebody calls the cops or CPS and makes that report, the kids are immediately sent there. We have a lot of rules to follow, lots of legal rules. We have to practice smart information sharing. We'll look at statutes, determine who we can share information with. There's a lot of confidential information, right? You're working with investigations, court cases, and privileged communications as well. So the sessions that they have with clients there are super privileged and protected. We have a lot of rules to follow, and it's a great agency. We've got lots of different programs. And one of the programs, the newer program, there's a lot more research being done about this program. It's called the Problematic Sexualized Behavior Program, or PSB program. This program is being looked into because it's newer. Typically, the case structure is you have an adult offender and a child victim. Well, this program oversees the services provided to a minor offender, so a child who has perpetrated or allegedly perpetrated against another child. In the past, those minor alleged offenders go into a youth academy, get into the court system, or they're ostracized by the family. But those strategies have been found to be harmful, increase recidivism, and the chances that those minors will reoffend. What this program does is it keeps that youth out of the court system and provides community therapeutic services and education to this child and their family. It's a big part, family, to increase better education, better sexual education to the kid. And it reintegrates and reunifies the family. There's a lot of ethical gray area there because therapists feel guilty for providing therapy services to a person who has committed a sexual crime. That's a gray area that we're working with, but it actually works and it reduces the recidivism rate. We'll take it to Roger now.
Thank you for that, Jackie. Coming from a communications and PR perspective, especially in the energy industry, our responsibilities live at the intersection of legal obligations and ethical expectations. Whether we're releasing information to the public, briefing stakeholders, or responding to media inquiries, we're not just telling a story, but we're also trying to shape perception, build trust, and managing risk. Legally, there are clear non-negotiables. We're required to uphold truth in advertising standards, avoid material misstatements, and comply with regulatory disclosure requirements, especially when dealing with large-scale infrastructure or sustainability claims. In the energy space, this is even more intense. Failing to disclose emissions data, for instance, or overstating benefits to local communities could really open up some doors to litigation or government sanctions. Supporting this, Vukovic and colleagues from a 2023 study explain in their research on ethical and legal aspects of public relations that communication professionals carry the dual weight of public interest accountability and organizational loyalty. They emphasize that PR is not just a support function, but it's also central to protecting organizations from reputational and legal fallout. But here's where the challenge is, where the law doesn't really cover everything. So we constantly find ourselves in gray areas. For example, when we're communicating about a proposed energy project, what happens when we know there's community resistance brewing, but it hasn't formally surfaced? Do we stay silent until it becomes official, or do we take a proactive stance knowing that ethical transparency builds trust? even when the law says we don't have to disclose it. These are some of the questions that come up in my everyday work that make our work complex and deeply human. This is where recent scholarship becomes especially relevant. In their 2024 study, Esan and his colleagues explored stakeholder engagement strategies in energy communication, and that early, transparent, and reciprocal dialogue with stakeholders significantly enhances project outcomes. And so their research, published in the International Journal of Management of Entrepreneurship Research, emphasizes that when organizations treat engagement as an ongoing conversation rather than a checkbox, they are more likely to build lasting trust, avoid social friction, and secure a stronger social license to operate. So ultimately, the legal side of our role gives us some structure, but it's our ethical choices, especially in ambiguous moments, that really define whether we're truly effective. And so in communication, especially in high stakes industries like energy, we're not really just sending out messages, but we're also gatekeeping trust. And as both of those studies suggested, when we lean into both our legal duties and our ethical responsibilities, we don't protect just our company, but we're also elevating the profession, and we serve the public in a way that is good for us and also good for them as well. So now I'll pass it on to Lawrence.
Of course, my line of work is provided by Jackie as well. We have a few stakeholders. We have our customer, we do the kids in detention centers, and then we have our employees and volunteers, and then lastly, we have donors. And so I come across what I see as an ethical issue first with our kids and being transparent. We know in servant leadership, which is what Youth for Crisis is focused on, it's about a moral form of leadership that serves the greater good of the organization, the community, and the society at large, according to Nordhaus. And it's about leadership theory and practice. I found that we weren't really doing that, focusing on the good of our clientele if we're not telling them the gospel, if we're not being honest that this is what we're bringing. They go into schools, they don't want to tell the kids, hey, this is Christian. They try to merge it in and make it seem like it's not. That doesn't seem ethical. We are trying not to offend anybody, but at the same time, we aren't being direct about what it is that we're doing. When it comes to employees, we had an employee leave because donors wanted the employee to be full-time and focus on a specific area of the city. Our executive director didn't want to allocate money to specific people. He wanted it to go into the general pool. The employee and the donors asked, hey, can we see where all the donors left, and created their own organization because of the lack of transparency. You can't have people giving money being clear about where it's going. If it goes into a general pool, then you can't lead people to believe what's going to a specific cause when it's not. People would donate and we'll have funds raised, but because of how they allocate and separate it, we're trying to raise 20,000, but you really already have it 20,000. Then our executive director says, let's allocate this 20,000 to something else so it leaves a gap so that they can donate. Like, why not just say we already have it and this is excess? Like, why try to shift things around to make it look like we really, really need it when we already have it and you're trying to create an excess of money? I understand what you're doing, but it doesn't seem ethical the way that you're going about it. It doesn't seem like you're being responsible. Those are some of the gray areas because it's not intentional, but it's also not being honest and open and forthright as well. That could lead to down the road.
Thank you so much. That I cannot believe that happened. Roger, you had a question for everyone today.
So I wanted to leave everyone thinking about this, especially as we are in diverse settings and different fields. Legal requirements give us a structure, but ethical judgment fills in the gaps. how do we ensure our decisions are fair whenever the systems we work in were never designed the gray areas we face today? Something to think about, especially as we are identifying and exploring gray areas that have never had a set of guidelines to go with them.
Yes. So thank you, Lawrence and Roger, for that input tonight. We will go ahead and close the show. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.